Comics are filled with colorful, complex, and fantastic worlds which are homes for our favorite superheroes. These unbelievable worlds can be way more exciting than the one we live in. But is our world any more real than those inside of comics? Welcome to Comic Misconceptions, I'm Scott, and in the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, they define and explain different groupings of reality. A universe is a single dimension, like Earth-616, the world that Marvel's main stories take place on. The multiverse is, quote, the collection of alternate dimensions with a similar nature and universal hierarchy, end quote. This includes basically every world on the incredibly long list of alternate realities within Marvel. Multiverses are typically comprised of Earths who have diverged from each other at specific points where the divided Earths have a different outcome of a given event, or are Earths that are similar but possess inherent differences. Examples would be what-if stories, where we're shown what would have happened if the outcome of a specific event were different, like what if Civil War had gone differently so Cap and Iron Man would get along and work together? What if Thor spoke in a Swedish accent? Or what if Hulk was a high school hall monitor? Comics are fun. But there is another step above a multiverse. It's what's called the Omniverse. Marvel describes the Omniverse as, quote, the collection of every single universe, dimension, etc. This includes the real world, but also includes every single universe, realm, etc. ever mentioned in any of Marvel Comics, as well as any other company. It includes every single literary, television show, movie, urban legend, universe, realm, etc. ever. Everything is in the Omniverse, and there is only one Omniverse, period. So according to this idea, it almost seems like Marvel is saying that our world is no more real than the fictional worlds of their comics, or really any fictional world. Wait, does that mean that if we exist, and our world isn't any more real than that of, say, the Avengers, do the Avengers exist?
Maybe I can help out here? Hi, my name's Ollie, I present Philosophy Tube, and Scott has just stumbled onto some hardcore metaphysics. Philosophers talk about parallel universes all the time when we discuss modality. A modal statement is any statement of the form it is possible that, or it is necessary that. For instance, Thor could have had a Swedish accent, that's a modal statement. Civil War could possibly have gone differently, that's modal too. Modal statements are really interesting because they look as if they are true. Take a real world example. Hitler might have won World War II. Well, most people would say that that is a true statement. What about it might rain tomorrow? Well, that might be true, and if it's not true, then do you really have any reason to take an umbrella with you? But although modal statements can look as if they're true, it's not clear what makes them true. The ordinary statement, grass is green, is true because there exists something, grass, in the world, and it's green. But modal statements, by definition, are not about the world. They're about the way the world isn't, but could have been. Take, I might never have been born. If that is true, how do you explain the truth of that without using other modal statements like my parents might never have met, because that would be circular? Well, philosophers say that a modal statement is true if it is true in some possible world. For instance, the Hulk could have been a hall monitor becomes, in some possible world, the Hulk is a hall monitor. Okay, grand. But what the heck is a possible world? Well, therein lies one of the biggest debates of the last 30 years of metaphysics. Some philosophers think that possible worlds are just imaginary, some think that they are features of language or grammar, and some think that they are real. David Lewis was one of these philosophers who thought that possible worlds were real. He outlined his theory, modal realism, in his book on the plurality of worlds, which I've discussed in greater detail on my own channel before. He thought that our own world, which we call the actual world, was just one of infinite possible worlds, all of them equally as real as this one, which, by the way, includes every single comic book universe ever. So in answer to your question, Scott, if David Lewis is right, then yes, the Avengers do exist. Like, for real.
Wait, what? Possible worlds are real? That's awesome! If I say the Avengers might really exist, then I'm really saying that they do exist on some possible world. And if that possible world is as concrete as our actual world is, then Captain America, Black Widow, Thor, and the whole gang are just as real as we are. This is one of the main principles of Lewis's modal realism. Possible worlds differ in content, not kind. But before we progress any further, I think it's important to separate this idea of modal realism from that of the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, which we've talked about before in our Scarlet Witch video a few weeks back. Remember that the way many worlds works is that subatomic particles interact with something and create a kind of fork in the road of reality that results in alternate realities branching off from a single moment. The two worlds have been created from a common event and have therefore influenced each other's existence. Plus, Marvel has shown on many instances that these alternate Earths can interact with each other. We've seen this sort of thing recently in Marvel's Secret Wars, where pieces of different alternate universes were pieced together into one Earth called Battleworld. But
in Lewis's theory, possible worlds are causally isolated. There can be no causal interaction between them at all, ever. You can't travel to another possible world the way you can travel to an alternate reality in a sci-fi movie. If scientists in our universe discovered some parallel dimension that had an effect on ours that could be measured, or they traveled to one, then by definition, that is not the way the world could be. That is the way the world is. And therefore, whatever that parallel dimension is, it's not a possible world. It's still part of our actual world.
okay, so that's a little disappointing. The Avengers might be real, but I'll never be able to actually sit down and eat shawarma with them? What's the point of literally anything? You might be wondering how we could argue that fictional characters exist if we'll never be able to interact with them. Well, there are people called fictional realists who believe that the way we talk about fictional entities commits us to their existence. For example, when we say the sentence, Captain America throws his mighty shield, it seems like it's a true statement. It certainly sounds more true than if we said, Captain America throws his mighty shoe. However, fictional anti-realists will point out that both statements are false. Captain America does not exist in our world, so he can't possibly throw anything, be it a shield, a shoe, or a really thoughtful birthday party for his friends, who also don't exist. The reason why the first statement about Cap throwing his shield seems true is because it is true in the fictional universe of Marvel. Fictional anti-realists argue that applying an operator like in the fiction to a fictional sentence allows us to not have to commit to their existence when we talk about them. But what happens when we say a sentence like, Tony Stark is a fictional character? We can't apply that same logic here. We can't say, according to the Marvel Universe, Tony Stark is a fictional character, because that's not true. According to the Marvel Universe, Tony Stark is a real genius billionaire playboy philanthropist. Many fictional realists have concluded that these external metafictional sentences do commit us to the existence of fictional characters. Tony Stark might be a fictional character, but the fact that he has the quality of being fictional grants him a kind of existence. There are, of course, some arguments against this, but it gets fairly complex and mainly centers around semantic, linguistic disputes. I won't go into it here, but I will leave some sources in the description that you should absolutely check out. But what do you guys think? Do the Avengers exist on some possible world that's as real as ours? Does simply talking about them commit them to a kind of existence? And if so, which comic book character are you the most upset about not being able to meet? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Huge thanks to Ollie for helping out with this video. He went above and beyond to make this happen, and you would not be watching it right now if it weren't for him. If you want more fascinating philosophy videos, head on over to his channel, PhilosophyTube. He's got a new video up about who exactly should Superman save. You may see a familiar face pop up over there. I wear a bow tie for no reason. And if this is your first time hanging out with us here at NerdSync, consider subscribing to our channel. We make new videos every week that ask questions and make learning more accessible through the amazing world of comics. So make sure you hit that big sexy subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. Once again, I'm Scott. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, and I will see you guys right here on Friday for another video. See ya.